Tonight, we're talking about the latest update in a big economic debate. Should South Africa tighten its inflation target, essentially moving the current band, which is 3% to 6%, to a point target of potentially 3%. And this has been going on since February 2024. And Finance Minister Godongwana urging caution during his budget vote in Parliament yesterday, warning against rushing the move, while the Reserve Bank Governor Gqubule says the review is close to completion. Let's get into this now with Duma Gqubule, an independent economist who joins us on the line. Very good evening and welcome to Power Business, Duma.
Thank you, Tehillah. Yes.
Good to have you with us this evening. Duma, you quite are not a fan, let's say, of a hawkish monetary policy and have been a critic previously of higher interest rates. What's your response to a potential new inflation target?
I think this is complete insanity because we have second highest unemployment rate in the world. Our economy is heading for the third consecutive year of GDP growth that is less than 1%. Our GDP per capita is lower than it was in 2007. We are in the worst post-apartheid economic crisis. Now, in economics, there's only two ways to reflate the economy. It's through fiscal policy and monetary policy, interest rates. Now, those are the two macroeconomic policy tools. We have one of the highest interest rates in the world, real after inflation interest rates. We've got a prime lending rate of 10.75% and a CPI of 2.8%. So after inflation, it is 8%. That is absolute insanity given where we are in our business cycle and our economy is not growing. Now, you want to have a lower inflation target to solve a problem that doesn't exist. We have an inflation rate of 2.8%. And if you look back over the 20 years that we've had inflation targeting, there's never, interest rates there are to reduce demand in the economy, to cool down demand. But there's never been a situation over the past 20 years where there's been excess demand. What we see in South Africa right now is that there's excess supply. Now, companies have got spare capacity, and they say that the main reason that they have this spare capacity of more than 20% for a very long time is that people don't have the money to buy the goods and services we can provide. So we've got the opposite of what happens under an inflationary environment. And all the inflation that we've seen over the last 20 years, it's about the exchange rate, it's about the oil price, it's about food prices, it's about supply side shocks. And what we've learned during COVID is that interest rates are useless in an environment where there are supply side shocks. You should rather address the supply side shock directly through targeted measures rather than, flood the, it just makes no sense whatsoever. So our monetary policy, as you said at the beginning, we've got this insane monetary policy, and I believe that we should change our monetary policy and target, like the US Fed, jobs and inflation. And we need to get a new leadership at the Reserve Bank. The Monetary Policy Committee is not in tune with the lived reality of ordinary South Africans. We need to have civil society participation in that change the composition of that Monetary Policy Committee, like the UK, where you have external members of the Monetary Policy Committee, people who empathize with the pain of ordinary South Africans here. And we had a situation here lastly. First quarter, shocker for the economy, 0.1% growth, and 291,000 people lost their jobs. That's more than 1 million beneficiaries are now in, because of this economic situation.
So then, just given the changes that have taken place since 2000, since the 3 to 6% band was adopted globally in South Africa, how do you think that the Reserve Bank or monetary policy should respond? Where should rates go? What are the other tools that could be used strictly by monetary policy, if we're talking monetary policy, that could be used to address the malaise in the economy?
So what we should be doing, number one, in terms of the malaise in the economy, what we've seen during COVID is that central banks throughout the world, they finance government spending. So in South Africa, and the stimulus packages globally were about 17 trillion during COVID, and about 75% of that came from central banks. And I'm talking about the U.S. Central Bank, the ECB, Japan, and all the major central banks in the UK, and so forth. So there's no reason why the central bank can't finance government. And I'll just give you an example. In 2024, at the last budget, the central bank created monopoly money out of nothing to pay 150 million rand to the treasury, for this foreign exchange reserve account. There was 500 rand in this foreign exchange reserve account, and they paid 150 million rand. I told the government, explained the steps of how they did it, but in a sense, they created monopoly money out of nothing. Now, fast forward to today, we have 400 billion rand in that kitty. Why can't we use that to reflate the economy again? You see what I'm saying? So I'm just saying that we have to start thinking unconventionally, because an inflationary spiral is very far away, because we have a situation, the opposite of excess demand. We've got excess supply in the economy. Yeah. Right. We've got too little money chasing too many goods and services in the economy. The people don't have the money to buy the things that the companies can provide, and that is what the opposite of what causes inflation. Yeah.
How do you respond then to the Reserve Bank's arguments over the years that inflation erodes the money that lower income households have to buy a basket of goods? The other thing that inflation does is drive up debt servicing costs by government, that the rand's depreciation is not linked to monetary policy, but instead it's protected by monetary policy, and that's to do with some of the political uncertainty that markets anticipate around South Africa, and that inflation targeting is the correct response in all kinds of policy choices in order to protect poor people or the most vulnerable.
Okay, if you look at the last 20 years, we've had an inflation rate of about 5%. And if you look at the last 10 years, our currency depreciates by about 5% a year. So for me, that means that we will have a slightly higher inflation rate than the advanced countries who maybe have more stable currencies. So there's nothing we can do about our currency. It will depreciate a bit more than other countries, and because we're a developing country. So now, why should you punish ordinary South Africans, make them pay more for their bonds and their houses because of something that monetary policy can't address? Monetary policy can't stop our currency from depreciation. It can't reduce the international oil prices. It can't reduce food prices. It makes no sense. It's almost like in the school playground, you're punishing the wrong kids. If you want to reduce inflation directly, supply side, you must do direct things to reduce the inflation rate here. And how can interest rates reduce the 12.7% ESCOM, rate, and ESCOM price hikes? Electricity prices have increased by, I think it's about 800% over the past 15 years. And what can monetary policy do about it? Nothing. So there's nothing they can do about all these things that are happening in the economy. Yeah.
Well, those are administered prices.
They're using the wrong policy to address inflation. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then how else would you respond to the Reserve Bank that says that a 3 to 6% band is out of kilter with emerging market peers? Then South Africa's bonds will not be as attractive if we move. Yeah, go ahead.
Our unemployment is like completely higher than our emerging market peers. So that is what we should be looking at, and what is appropriate for us where we are today. We don't have an inflation problem. As I said, it's 5% for the past 20 years. Why are you trying to solve for an issue that doesn't exist? Let's see what we can do to start reflating this economy. That should be the only thing that happens. We've got a huge shock to our economy now from the Trump tariffs. That is about 156 billion rand of exports to the U.S. that are now, affected, and it's going to have a deflationary shock on our economy. And then you want to tighten the screws of monetary policy and tighten the screws of fiscal policy to primary budget purposes, and you want us to plunge deeper into this crisis. It makes no sense whatsoever, yeah.
I want to shift tack slightly to the politics around this and just managing those, Duma. So the Reserve Bank governor says that the review is close to completion. The Reserve Bank wants to push ahead with changing the inflation target, but the Treasury is still urging caution. Where do you see this going in the next 6 months to a year?
Well, my understanding, the Deputy Finance Minister said it's imminent, but when you talk to the Finance Minister, he seems to be a bit lukewarm about this idea, So I don't know where we are in the politics of it. I don't think he's that keen, but I would be surprised. Yeah. Why? I don't know. Actually, I don't know. But everybody seems to be saying different things. But I think the Finance Minister is not getting on this, yeah. In terms of the priorities in our country right now, I'll put it number 10 or 20. It's not a priority right now. We can do it maybe when we're a developed country, but not for now. Yeah.
All right, thanks very much. That's Duma Gqubule, an independent economist, talking to us about the latest in the possibility of the inflation target moving to a point, possibly 3%.